Today we're exploring one-point perspective by drawing various shapes. First, let's lay down the foundation. Draw a horizon line. This can be placed wherever you like on your page, and then mark a vanishing point directly on that line. After that, sketch a few different shapes. I'll go for a mix to show you how it works with multiple shapes. So I want to draw a triangle here, square here, and a circle below the horizon line, a rectangle, and another triangle at the side. You can also draw ovals, hexagons, and other geometrical shapes. Place them on different locations and draw them around the vanishing point. Then I'll redraw the outlines of my shapes with my ruler to have more defined edges. Now it's time to add our perspective. We'll be adding converging lines. Just like with box drawing, these go from each corner of your shape back to the vanishing point. Align your ruler with the vanishing point and the corners, drawing these lines lightly as we'll be erasing most of them as we progress. See how the converging lines of a triangle all meet at the vanishing point? The hexagon is a little more intricate with several more corners to consider. You'll also notice that some of these converging lines will go behind the shape, so they won't be drawn since they're not visible in that 3D shape. If a line goes completely through shape and doesn't appear outside of it, it wouldn't be visible. Then we don't need to draw it. Notice how this corner of the rectangle goes through the shape, therefore it's unnecessary to draw its converging line. Next, we'll add the parallel lines to give our shapes depth. We create these lines parallel to the side of our original shape. For example, line up your ruler with one side of your shape and then move it down the page, creating a line that is equal to the desired depth of the shape. When you move on to the next parallel line, you will want to extend your ruler so that it aligns from the corner to the point where your parallel line and the converging line meet. This point will tell you where to draw the next parallel line. Afterward, we can erase the remaining converging lines as they are no longer needed. You may find yourself redrawing some of these lines because they will often be partially erased throughout the process. We'll repeat this process with the hexagon, and it will take a bit longer since there are more connection points to make. Alright, we've finished these three shapes. Now let's move on to those two and demonstrate how to add depth and dimension. I'll begin by connecting each visible corner to the vanishing point. This particular corner does not pass through the shape, so I'll connect it to the vanishing point. However, these two corners on the back, when connected to the vanishing point, intersect the shape. Therefore, we can ignore drawing these converging lines as the edges they represent are hidden from this perspective. Because the shape itself blocks these lines and they're not visible to us from this angle, we don't need to draw them. Next, as before, we will use our ruler to draw parallel lines. We need to determine how deep and wide we want each shape to appear. We could go deeper with the line placed over here, or alternatively, place the parallel line closer to the original form for a more narrow form. For each edge, I'll align my ruler to match that edge in order to create parallel lines. Afterward, we'll erase this portion of the horizon line because once we've added the shape, the horizon line recedes behind it. Then we can erase those unnecessary converging lines. Next, we go for this one, which is just a simple square, nothing really fancy, just like the previous tutorial we had. It's just a little rotated like this rectangle down here. Since no converging lines are needed there, we don't draw a parallel line for that portion. As you're adding parallel lines, remember that they always stay within the boundary of the converging lines on each side of your shape. If you extend beyond the converging lines, your parallel lines will appear to cut through other areas of the shape. This will break the perspective. If it gets confusing, it may help to imagine a duplicate of your first shape situated behind the original. That's essentially what we're accomplishing with these parallel lines. I'll move through this part relatively quickly as the process remains the same. For this square, we might see a small part of its side edge. Though barely visible, we still need to draw it to achieve a realistic perspective. Since this part is blocked by this shape, I won't draw my converging lines on this shape. I don't want to cross it through the shape because I want this to be on top. Now if I go this deep, these two shapes will definitely overlap. But if I draw my parallel lines closer to the shape, they won't. For the organic shapes, it's a little bit different but not difficult. Each circle in perspective will turn into a cylinder. So just imagine you're drawing a cylinder in perspective. We'll define the edges by aligning the ruler from the vanishing point and sliding it until it just touches the outer side of the circle. Then draw a line that touches that edge. We do this on both sides of the circle. We can see that the lines simply follow along the outer edge without going through the shape. To make a parallel line, we will do the same and imagine a duplicate of the circle behind the original. Then we can erase those extra converging lines we used as a guide. And that's it for this tutorial. Thank you for following this tutorial. I'm glad you made it this far. I hope this tutorial was helpful and easy to follow. Until next time, and happy drawing!